Welcome here to Talk FCB and welcome back here to the channel, guys, where once again today we will be discussing Antoine Griezmann and whether Barcelona should be trying to sign him in the transfer window this summer. Yesterday, of course, we did part 1 of this video. If you haven't seen that, I would kind of recommend going to watch that first and then coming to watch part 2, because yesterday we spoke about the transfer rumours, the potential fee, the wages, Griezmann's experience, his goals, his consistency. That was the sort of brief outlook into Griezmann, and then in today's part 2 video, we're going to be looking into his overall style of play. What sort of things can he give us at the centre of our attack? His age, how many years are we going to get out of him? Is he entering his prime? Is the right time now to sign him? And also, the most important question of all, where exactly does Griezmann fit? How are we going to fit him into the team? Where is he going to play? And who is going to be affected by his signing? And of course, after we've looked into all of that, we are then going to be making the overall conclusion. Should Barca sign Griezmann? That is the big question. So if you haven't seen part 1, guys, that will be in the description down below. Go and have a look at that now. If you've already seen part 1, firstly, thank you very much for watching. Let's get on with part 2. So following on from yesterday's video, guys, obviously we spoke about Griezmann's goals, his impact in front of goal, how many goals he scores per game. He is a clinical striker, he does score goals, but what else can he give us in our attack? Because I think that's really, really important, because there's a reason why we're being heavily linked here with Antoine Griezmann and not, say, Robert Lewandowski, who could be leaving Bayern this summer. There's a reason we go after these very particular strikers, because when it comes to a striker coming to Barca, we don't just want any old striker. We don't just want somebody who puts the ball in the back of the net. We don't want a typical number 9. We want a complete player coming to the club who, of course, can score goals. That's the most important thing with any striker, but they also need to be able to play a part for the team by creating goals, by creating space with good movement, with good awareness, with a good understanding of the game. And that's the big question. Does Griezmann have those traits? When I look at him, when I look at the stats, when I look at him play, I would say overall he is a striker that does suit Barca. He's not just your traditional number 9. He doesn't just score goals. He does provide an overall game, and he does have a lot of the traits that are needed at Barca. And I go back to his time at Real Sociedad, where he operated mainly as a wide midfielder or a winger, and then he was very, very creative, and he regularly provided assists for his teammates. He usually ended the season with more assists than goals. Then he moved to Atletico Madrid, like we discussed yesterday. He polished up on his finishing, became a lot more clinical in front of goal, and then he moved into that central slot where he's really flourished as the main centre forward. But for me, when I look at him, a lot of the time he hasn't lost that creative spark. He still has the ability to create for his teammates. At Atletico, he doesn't always create maybe as much as he can do, simply because he's mainly the player who's going forward, scoring goals. It's all on him. There's not really a lot else for him to create at the club. Now Diego Costa has gone there, he has started to play more of a creative role and show once again those creative qualities. And if we just take a look at his assist tally over the last few years, again while operating as that centre forward at Atletico Madrid, in the 2014-15 season, 3 league assists, no Champions League assists. So his first season at Atletico, it was pretty much all on him to score goals, to create goals. He didn't do a lot of creating. He was mainly worried in that season about scoring, and he certainly did that, as we saw yesterday. In the 15-16 season, more league assists, he got 6 and also 1 in the Champions League. And as the seasons go on, look, 16-17, he's had a bit more help at Atletico, 8 league assists, 2 in the Champions League, and already this season, he's probably going to have his most assists since he joined Atletico, 7 so far, and 2 in the Champions League, even though Atletico are already out of that. When you look at somebody like Suarez, who comes to Barca, who's flourished as a goal scorer, but he also gives you a lot more than that. And Griezmann, right now, is the only La Liga player, except for Lionel Messi, to reach 10 goals and assists in all competitions this season. So he can do it on both fronts, and I think that's really important. And as we're going to come on to later, when we look at how he fits into Barcelona, when you go back to those days when he played as a winger, and especially his development at Atletico Madrid, that work ethic that Simeone has brought into him, that for me could stand him in really, really good stead when it comes to finding a place for him in the Barca team. And now we move on to Antoine Griezmann's age. Now for me, this is where it all feels a little bit like Coutinho's signing. Now Coutinho's here right now, and I love him. I love his personality. I think he's a great player. He's already seemed to settle in, and I'm really excited about what he can do. But when we signed Coutinho, there was a bit of a feeling like, do we need him right now? Is this the right time to spend a lot of money, of course, that it was on him? And not only that, but also the fact that Coutinho isn't really that young. He is probably entering the prime of his career, and there's no doubt about his quality. And now he's here, we're all very much behind him. And I get that sort of feeling about Griezmann. 26 right now, of course, he turns 27 next month. And that's the kind of feeling I get, that once again, the board seem to be thinking very, very short term. Because for me, I would maybe look at somebody out there who's a bit younger, maybe has a little bit more to then improve as the years go on, a bit more perhaps of a long-term signing. But Bartomeu and his board seem very much set on buying these big stars, the Galactico type of player, with big quality of course, but entering their prime years. And I wouldn't exactly call it a long-term signing. Having said that though, Griezmann does have quality. We signed Suarez at the same sort of age, and that worked out very, very well for us indeed, and we're still getting really excellent quality out of Luis Suarez. So it's very much possible that you get another 4, maybe even 5 years out of Griezmann at the highest level, but I still wouldn't call it a particularly long-term signing. But to be honest, that's modern football right now, isn't it? You know, clubs plan very much for the now. They want immediate success, often because the fans are demanding that. Everybody wants success here and now, so you sign very much in the present. A few years ago, maybe we'd have looked from within, maybe we'd have signed somebody younger, but right now it seems like players coming in at Barca, they're entering their prime and ready to give something immediately. But admittedly, you know, when you look at Griezmann, there are alternatives. People have spoken about Paulo Dybala at Juventus. He's about 2.5 years younger than Griezmann. Same sort of quality, I would say, right now. Griezmann with more experience, with more consistency, I would say. But Dybala, there's no doubting his potential. And then, of course, there's the question of La Masia. Should we be looking from within? Should we be looking for somebody like Jose Arnaiz to be given that full opportunity in the first team to see if he could perhaps play as an inside forward? He's certainly shown potential. Should we be giving players like that more of an opportunity? There's Munir El Haddadi, of course. He'll be coming back from loan in the summer. He's had an excellent season, really excellent season on loan at Alaves. And that's what I mean when I say there's so many different things that you need to take into consideration. There's so many different aspects here. You know, you can say that Griezmann is a fantastic player. He scores goals, but there's a lot more to take into consideration than that. There's so many more avenues that you need to look down, and none more so here than our final topic, which for me is the biggest question of all, the one that we're all wondering about, that nobody really knows how this is going to work. Where does Antoine Griezmann fit in the Barcelona first team? And this for me is, of course, the €100 million question. Because so far in these videos, one thing is absolutely clear. You cannot deny Antoine Griezmann's quality. He's done it year in, year out in La Liga, in the Champions League. The price is a pretty decent one, and he certainly has the experience. But the biggest question has always been, where would he play? Would he be, you know, a direct replacement for Luis Suarez? Would he be somebody who can sort of fill in and maybe rotate with Suarez? Would he play together with him? Would he be signed as somebody maybe in the next few years or so when Suarez isn't maybe at the same level as he is now? Would he then step up and take on that role? Could he play wide? How would all this have an effect on, say, Messi's role, or Dembele, of course? He's trying to settle in the team. Coutinho as well. And I think there's a general feeling, you know, that Suarez right now, 31 years old, Lionel Messi, 30 years old, there is a bit of a need for some reinforcements in the attacking areas. There is a need to sort of bolster the squad and plan for the future. But like I say, there are massive concerns about where Griezmann would fit in with potential lineups, potential formations, and that is what we're going to do here. Look at formations, look at systems. Where does Griezmann play? And what you will notice straight away when we look at these lineups, we're going to start here with the traditional 4-3-3. You will notice straight away it is virtually impossible to include the likes of Griezmann, Messi, Suarez, Dembele, Coutinho all at the same time. But obviously our seasons are long. We spoke about Messi and Suarez aging, so you've got to take into account there will be rotation. But we will start here with traditional 4-3-3 formation, and I think Griezmann here could actually be very, very effective. Here it would be a question of Griezmann or Luis Suarez, not both. It would be one or the other. Messi in the false nine, Dembele off to the right, and you would have the three behind them in midfield, where you could put, you know, Coutinho if you wanted to. There might be some other midfield signings to think about as well. But Griezmann out in this wide position here, I think he could actually be really effective coming off that left-hand side, simply because you know that he can play in a wing role. He hasn't done it for a few years, but at Barca, it's not a traditional winger. In this position here, it would be an inside forward. He would play out wide at times, but he can come inside. He can make those runs, and I think Messi here in this kind of formation can work really well with Griezmann in that kind of role, with Griezmann making those kind of runs, and I think we've really missed that inside forward role at Barcelona. We've desperately lacked that kind of role since Henry, since David Villa, Pedro, the player who would come out wide, who can do that, who can work hard, tracking back as well. Griezmann has done that at Atletico Madrid, but what he can also do is come inside and finish chances, latch on to Messi passes, get in those kind of positions, and I think in that kind of role, in the 4-3-3 formation, as we're all used to at Barca, personally my favourite way to set up in terms of formation, and Griezmann could play that role very, very well. With Messi in the false nine, Dembele has a part to play out here on the right as well, and I think that could be effective. And then we're going to look into the 4-1-2-1 formation, which is basically a different sort of variation on the 4-4-2, very narrow, as always, it's over to the fullbacks here to really provide your width when you're going forward. But here you see Griezmann and Suarez actually getting the opportunity to play together, both up here in their natural striking roles. And this for me is an interesting formation. Obviously, the first thing you'll note is no Dembele. There's no real wide options here in the attack, but it does give Griezmann and Suarez the opportunity to play together. And not only that, Messi here for me is absolutely key, because obviously it does lack a bit of width in these kind of areas, but under Valverde we have seen at times in the big games these kind of narrow formations, very structured, very secure. And what makes me really excited about this formation is Messi here. The kind of balls that he could play to Griezmann and Suarez ahead of him. You think of the runs these two are going to make, and Messi behind them, looking at both of them, having both options, both of these players creating space. You've got Griezmann who can drift out wide, Suarez who can then play through the middle. There's so many options with that formation, and I think that's really good to see Messi in that role, in that playmaking role. You know about his passing range. Those two ahead of him could wreak havoc. And then there's the 4-2-3-1 formation, a formation that Valverde really does like, with those two holding players here in that role, in the sort of double pivot. Busquets, Rakitic, they can do well in that role. And this for me would be a formation against maybe, for instance, like we saw on the weekend, against the likes of Girona, at home against mid-table opposition, when you're going to have a lot of the ball, because it's very attacking. You look at that going forward, there's not a lot of structure here in midfield, especially with Messi here. So you've got four attacking-minded players. But I think, again, very interesting to see Griezmann and Suarez together. Griezmann playing this inside forward role, Dembele giving you width down the right. Obviously on the bench you've got the likes of Coutinho, you've got Iniesta, and I think also with this formation you can do it a bit differently as well, because what you can have is actually Coutinho then out on that wide left, and you could actually have Griezmann down the middle. If maybe you want to rest Suarez, maybe as time goes on and you want to play Griezmann as your man, then you can make it more conservative, because then Coutinho can play a more wide left role, Dembele wide right, Griezmann making those runs as you know he can do, and that then makes it a bit more structured. So Griezmann could also fit in a formation that Valverde does like. 4-2-3-1 is definitely an option, either out wide to the left or through the middle instead of Suarez. And the final formation that I am going to show you here, guys, is a bit of a wildcard. I'm just going to throw this one out there, because obviously in the future nobody right now knows what's going to happen, but just take a look at this and let me know how you feel about what you see, because what we're looking at here is the 4-3-3, very traditional, but with Lionel Messi here in a midfield role. Now we could be talking 2-3 years down the line. Griezmann is your centre forward, Suarez at that time could be 34, maybe even 35. You don't know what's going to happen in the future, but like I say, Messi in midfield, maybe Roberto, maybe Arthur, somebody like that alongside him in your traditional 4-3-3, and then the front three, Coutinho, Griezmann and Dembele. That front three for me, I think, looks really good, simply because they're all capable of interchanging. Griezmann could come out to the left, Coutinho could drop back and provide more support in midfield, come deep to create things. Dembele, you know that he can play out wide, but he can also maybe in time adjust and make those runs and develop as a player to score more goals. And I think that front three actually is really nice. And obviously Messi, we don't know whether he's going to sort of develop into a deeper midfield position as the years go on, maybe as he loses some of his pace, but obviously with Messi, everything is done all in that incredible football brain. Imagine him in that midfield role with the likes of Coutinho, Griezmann, Dembele all in front of him, making those runs, giving him options. At the same time, you've got the fullbacks as well. Once again, I don't know what sort of opposition you'd use this team against, but I just thought it would be interesting to show you this, guys. Obviously, not something that we need to think about right now, but in the future, who knows? And that's basically the kind of formations, the kind of systems, the kind of positions that we could see Antoine Griezmann take up if he does join Barca. I think he's very comfortable playing on his own as a main striker. He's comfortable as well playing out wide in an inside forward role from the left, maybe even from the right if needed. And I do think that Griezmann as a player could definitely fit at Barcelona, and there is a way to get him in our team. The question, though, really is how many of those players do you want to leave out? Do you want to leave Dembele on the bench? Is it time to sort of start planning for life without Suarez? Where's Lionel Messi going to play as the year goes on? And where exactly are our plans for Felipe Coutinho? Those are all the questions that you have to take into account, because for me, my conclusion would be, you look at Griezmann, you see a world-class player coming into the prime of his career, huge experience in La Liga, huge experience in the Champions League, and also a very decent fee in the modern market. But also, my biggest concern with the signing of Antoine Griezmann is simply about our midfield. My biggest concern is how much of our budget we be spending on Griezmann, because for me, our biggest priority going into the summer transfer window, like it should have been now for window after window after window, we should be prioritising a big midfield signing, whether it be Arthur Melo, if we're going to try and bring him in right now. Are we going to try and get Thiago Alcantara back from Bayern Munich? Is there going to be somebody else that we can target as well? Where is our money going to go, and how much of it have we got to spend? Because if after we sign our midfield player, who I think can come in and then improve our midfield, and that would give us so much in that area, if after doing that we still have enough for Griezmann, there's no doubting that he can be a huge addition to our squad. But I'm just not sure the board get their priorities right. I'm really not. I'm not sure of their judgment. They seem absolutely defiant on delivering these huge Galactico type signings. Every single transfer window now, they're trying to make one of these big signings, and it's not always necessary. We are not Real Madrid. That's the really important thing to remember here. We don't just buy the stars for the sake of buying stars. If we need Griezmann, and I think in 6, 8, 10 months, we might be looking down the line and saying we do need Griezmann. Do we need him now? Probably not. But at the same time, if you don't get him now, he's probably going to go somewhere else, and then further down the line, who are you going to get? So I can certainly see the problems, but like I say, for me, target midfield, get your midfielder. If we have the money to do it, I would be on board with the Griezmann signing. I think he can fit. I think you'd have to leave some players out along the line, but I think he can fit in our team. He certainly has the quality, but believe me, there are a lot of questions to consider here. This is not a straightforward signing. So guys, after part 1 and part 2, we have gone over pretty much everything about Griezmann. If I have missed anything, please do let me know in the comments down below. But most importantly, let me know your thoughts. I'm going to put a poll on this video. I'm also going to put a poll in my community section. After watching these two videos, what are your honest thoughts? Should we sign Griezmann or shouldn't we? It is now over, guys, to you. What do you think? Let me know, and I will be seeing you very soon, of course, with more videos as the debate rages on. Thank you very much for joining me, both for part 1 and part 2. I'll see you very soon, guys. But until then, as always, Vasca El Barça!